Hi, we're going to talk more today about the Dr. Roy Swank book, the Multiple Sclerosis Diet book, a low-fat diet for the treatment of MS. Um, there's all kinds of diets out there today. He started a low-fat diet for his patients back in 1948. He followed those patients over 34 years. And at the end of 34 years of sticking to his diet, 95% of them saw no progression of their disease. He believed that if you started this diet early on, after you got diagnosed, it would halt the progression of your disease in its tracks. So let's find out why. What made him think of this complicated, life-altering disease could be stopped just by eating a low-fat diet? Like, what caused him to think that? Well, he wanted to find the cause of MS, and he knew that there was a lot of MS in Norway at the time. He traveled to Norway, and what was interesting is that on the coastal part, where people ate fish and wine and used olive oil, there was a low incidence of MS. When he went inland into the country, where people ate meat and butter and beer, just a totally different diet, even though they're the same country, genetically the same, they had a high rate of MS. So he was thinking, okay, it has to either do with like the diet or something to do with geography, even though they're in the same country. Maybe it's food. So I'm going to read the introduction to the 1977 edition. The first edition was actually published in 1959. And the first sentence I'm going to read is actually why I'm thinking I want to try this. Okay, so it says, first, in many cases, relapses occurred quite suddenly, suggesting a vascular cause. Second, the neurological literature suggested that the frequency of the condition varied geographically. Third, post-World War II nutritional studies revealed a marked variation in fat consumption in different parts of the world, suggesting a possible correlation between high fat intake and a high frequency of multiple sclerosis. Now, most medications today, most treatments today look at multiple sclerosis from the standpoint that it's autoimmune, that our myelin sheath that's protecting our nerves, it's eaten away because our body is having an immune response. It's attacking the myelin. He kind of believes it's coming from the inside out. It's a vascular issue, something going on inside those capillaries that's causing the damage. And what caught my attention was because when I got diagnosed, I actually went to the emergency room thinking I was having a stroke. So when he says it came on quick, it comes on quickly as though it's vascular, I woke up one day, complete left-sided weakness, thought I was having a stroke. So the fact that he says that makes me think, that was my experience, now that you mention it. So, he talks about, before and after the war, when things were rationed during the war and people didn't have access to butter and meat, things like that, the rates of heart disease went down, the rates of MS went down. After the war, the food intake went back up, so did the rates of vascular disease and multiple sclerosis. So, he's thinking, there's got to be a correlation. It's got to have something to do with animal fats, saturated fats, but not oils. The people who had the olive oil and the wine culture and the fish culture, that didn't seem to make a difference. It was the animal fats, saturated fats. And he says, and this was born out of the low frequency of multiple sclerosis among Eskimos and Laplanders in the north, who consume large amounts of highly unsaturated oil in the form of blubber and cod liver oil, and among Italians who consume large quantities of olive oil. All right, so he's seeing that the unsaturated fat doesn't seem to affect it. So I found that interesting. So that's how he came upon the belief that it's caused by diet, saturated fat. Honestly, I still, part of me wants to believe it's autoimmune, because I'm thinking, how can only a handful of people think it's vascular, and everybody else thinks it's autoimmune? I'm on medications that look at it from an autoimmune perspective, and the medication is doing a great job at controlling my disease. So I think I'm going to try maybe to incorporate this diet kind of just as an alternative to go alongside my medication, because I am coming up on my 12-year anniversary of being diagnosed. And the longer you have MS, the more chance you have of it going from relapsing, remitting to secondary progressive. So if there's anything I can do to keep that from happening, why not? This diet's not that hard. And I know there are plans out there like the McDougall diet and overcoming multiple sclerosis diet. And if those work for you, that's great. Everybody's different. I just think it's interesting that some of those diets say 0 fat, 0 oil, not even healthy fats. Whereas, he's proved that has no effect. He's proved that the healthy fats don't seem to affect it at all. So, and those oils kind of help give you energy to make it through your day. And when your number one symptom is fatigue, if you can have oil and get some energy, why not? Again, I'm not judging anybody's diet, because everybody's different. Because when look at allergies, food allergies. I have some weird food allergies. Our bodies handle everything differently. What works for some people might not work for me. But I'm on page 86. It says, Swank and his collaborators observed that large saturated fat meals caused marked aggregation of blood cells, both in vitro and in vivo, in dogs, humans, and hamsters. And they saw an increase in the viscosity of venous blood in dogs and hamsters. So giving somebody a really fatty, saturated fat meal, if they could look, and see what's going on in your brain, the blood got thicker, there were little clumps of cells. And then it says oil meals, or unsaturated fat meals, either produced no changes or much lesser changes. So the oil, the unsaturated fat, there's no reason to cut that out, according to Dr. Swank. And I'm going to trust him, since he did this for so long and saw a 95% success rate in the patients that he followed for over 30 years. If you're just doing this diet, and I don't think those people that he followed were on medication, they were still working, still walking without assistance, just by following this diet. That just sounds so crazy. And there's people online in groups that I'm in who do this diet, and most of them aren't on medication, and they've done great over the years. No progression in their disease. So, people today still use this. And it's so against, like I said, it's so against, everything you're taught from the time you get diagnosed, that it's autoimmune. So it'd be interesting to do this diet, and just thought it'd be a fun experiment. See if there's anything else that I wanted to add. But yeah, he believes that the saturated fat causes the clumping of cells together. And as the blood is going through your body, you get to those little capillaries in the brain, those cells are clumped together, they get clogged up, and it causes damage to the inside lining of your capillaries. And that's kind of what will cause damage to the tissue around it. And that's what causes the lesions, in his opinion. He sees it as a vascular issue. And like I said, what caught my attention and made me think there might be something to this is the fact that mine came on so quickly that I thought it was being caused by a vascular incident. So that's why, if you ever wanted to know why a low-fat diet, that's why. Thank you for watching.